on Thursday, July 25th, 2024, and I'd like to call to order the Ottawa City Planning Commission meeting. Would you call the roll?
Member Kane?
Here.
Vice Chair Crowley?
Here.
Member Stresnick Dean? Here. Member Harris?
Here.
Chair Lantis?
Here.
Member Maxwell?
Here.
Looks like we have a quorum.
Thank you, and I'd like to recognize and welcome new Commissioner Maxwell. We now have 6, so it's a little easier to make a quorum. Thank you for taking time to help us with this.
You're welcome.
Declaration. At this time, I would like to ask the Planning Commission members to make a declaration of any conflict of interest or of any ex parte or outside communication that might influence their ability to hear all sides on any item on the agenda so that they might come to a fair decision. Hearing none, we'll move along. Public comments. Persons who wish to address the City Planning Commission regarding items on the agenda may do so as that agenda item is called. Persons who wish to address the City Planning Commission regarding items not on the agenda and that are under the jurisdiction of the City Planning Commission may do so at this time when called upon by the chair. Comments on personnel matters and matters pending in court or with other outside tribunals are not permitted. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Any public comment entered via online chat will not be recognized or commented upon. Any presentation is for informational purposes only. The Planning Commission will take comments under advisement. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, the June 27th, 2024 meeting minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? And then the July 10th, 2024 meeting minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? They'll be entered into the record. Public hearings. First public hearing, 1201 West 15th Street, a rezone application submitted by Clint Arndt on behalf of the Rebecca E. Blau Trust and Sunflower Care Homes. And the way we do this is we usually have a presentation by staff. We usually ask the developer if they'd like to make a presentation, then we open it for public comments, and when the public comments are done, then we'll close the public hearing, and then the commissioners will discuss it. So I'm going to open the public hearing on 1201 West 15th.
All right, sorry, 1 second, had to run upstairs, had a presentation issue.
Okay.
All right, so the first item is an application for a rezone at 1201 West 15th Street from R1 low density residential to R3 high density residential, as requested by Clint Arndt on behalf of the Rebecca E. Blau Trust and Sunflower Care Homes. The subject site is an undeveloped 4.3 acre or 187,000 roughly square foot tract located along West 15th Street, approximately 0.13 miles from the intersection with Eisenhower Avenue. The parcel is surrounded by existing developments with a variety of uses within varying residentially zoned districts. To the north are homes zoned R2, to the east a single family home zoned R1, the owner of which is the owner of the subject property. To the west is a church zoned R1, and to the south an existing nursing home facility zoned R3. The applicant is requesting this zoning change to allow for an application for a conditional use permit to construct a nursing home / assisted living facility on the site. Per section 6-301 of the adopted zoning ordinance, a nursing home or similar facility is only allowed within the R3 zoning district and only within that district by approval of a conditional use permit. The applicant intends to first secure the correct required zoning before pursuing that required conditional use permit for the project. The proposed facility would consist of a singular residential building that would accommodate up to 16 residents. The site would also include a storage building / garage, a kids play area for proposed staff daycare located within the building, and parking for visitors and staff. The applicant anticipates a minimal impact on parking, given the lower number of residents and the unlikelihood of them being active drivers. The applicant also anticipates the facility providing approximately 15 jobs. This proposed use would be in line with the existing Rock Creek facility to the south and would not be out of character for the surrounding area, which already consists of a variety of residential uses and districts. On this screen, you can see an image of the property. We have a GIS image on the left-hand side showing existing utilities, along with a preliminary site plan on the right-hand side. As stated, the property is currently zoned R1 and is surrounded by a variety of residential uses and zones, and it is currently vacant and has access to all city utilities and services. Moving on to findings, in determining a recommendation, staff found the following. First, whether the change in classification would be consistent with the intent and purposes of these regulations. The proposed use would be consistent with the intent and purpose of the proposed rezone. The proposed use of a residential nursing home is allowable only within the R3 district with a conditional use permit, which the applicant is requesting. The proposed use complies with all other regulations and requirements of the zoning district. That the character and condition of the surrounding neighborhood and its effect on the proposed change. As stated, the surrounding area is residential in use, which the proposed rezoning would maintain. The applicant is proposing a nursing home facility, which would be allowed through a CUP. The proposed project is of a low enough intensity to not significantly impact the existing development in the area. Whether the proposed amendment is made necessary because of changed or changing conditions in the area affected, and if so, the nature of such changed or changing conditions. Due to the requirements of the zoning, which states that a nursing home is only allowable through a CUP within an R3 district, the proposed use has spurred this request for a change in zoning. Ottawa is in need of additional housing options for a variety of price point and living styles, which the applicant is attempting to address through this rezoning. The current zoning and use of nearby properties and the effect on existing nearby land uses upon such a change in classification. The proposed R3 zoning would not have a significant impact on nearby land uses. As noted, the surrounding area has a mixture of zoning classifications and uses, and this proposed zoning would be in character with the area. Whether every use that would be permitted on the property as reclassified would be compatible with the uses permitted on other property in the immediate vicinity. Again, the proposed uses would be compatible with the surrounding properties. As stated, the proposed use would be a nursing home, which is the same use as a property to the southeast. The suitability of the applicant's property for the uses to which it has been restricted. The site is suitable for the proposed development. As noted in the background, the applicant will be seeking a conditional use to allow the development of the property into a nursing facility, and the lot has ample room and access to existing services and transportation networks to allow for such use. The length of time the subject property has remained vacant or undeveloped at zone, and staff was not able to determine the length of vacancy at the time of review. I would imagine it has not been developed in the entirety of its existence. Whether adequate sewer and water facilities and all other needed public services exist or can be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the property if it were reclassified. The property does have access to all existing city utilities and services, and the rezoning would not impact that access. The general amount of vacant land that currently has the same zoning classification proposed for the subject property, particularly in the vicinity of the subject property, and any special circumstances that make a substantial part of such vacant land available or not available for development. As a general rule, R3 zoning is not very common within Ottawa, and those areas that are zoned R3 have generally been built out with existing developments, be those nursing homes or apartment complexes. The amount of available property that would then fit the criteria for this proposed use is limited and would be therefore supportive of this application for a rezone to allow this use. Whether the proposed amendment would be in conformance to and further enhance the implementation of the city's comprehensive plan. The city's current comprehensive plan has a stated goal of a variety of types and affordability of housing options. This proposed rezoning would address that goal in allowing additional housing to be built. Whether the relative gain to the public health, safety, and general welfare outweighs the hardship imposed upon the applicant by not upgrading the value of the property by such reclassification. The applicant would not be able to pursue this proposed development without the proposed rezoning to R3 per our code. The proposed use fills a need within our community and would maximize the use of an otherwise vacant lot. This is balanced by staff not finding any gain or loss in the public health, safety, or general welfare that would be created by this change. Such other factors as the Planning Commission may deem relevant from the facts and evidence presented in the application. Staff does not have any comments regarding this consideration. And the recommendation of professional staff. Staff is recommending that the application to a rezoning to R3 high density residential be approved. The applicant's proposed project would address a need within the community, and the proposed rezoning is suitable for the existing development and nature of the surrounding area. As stated, staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning at 1201 West 15th Street from R1 low density residential to R3 high density residential with no additional conditions for approval. The recommendation of the Planning Commission will be forwarded on to the next available City Commission meeting for final determination.
Thank you, Zach. Would the applicant wish to make a comment? If so, come up, state your name and your address, please.
My name's Clinton Arndt, 2155 Road 170, Reading, Kansas. I'm the owner of Sunflower Care Homes. We have locations in Baldwin, Emporia, and El Dorado. And pretty excited to possibly expand into Ottawa. We believe this would be a great thing for the community, provide jobs, living areas for our senior citizens. And I think the staff's summary and findings and everything kind of explains what we're doing and everything. So I'm really just, if anyone has any specific questions based on that.
Thank you. We may get back to you with
Okay.
specific questions if necessary. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I will close the hearing. All right, commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I think this is a great idea. It certainly fills a great need in our community. We have one special care home that's built. Baldwin is built. And so there is a need for specialty care they're wanting to provide. And I don't know that it's gonna hinder anything that I'm there wants to make it since I've been in all of it. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, if there's no other discussion on this, I would entertain a motion to modify or accept the findings as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the findings as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Kane. All right, would you call the roll?
Vice Chair Crowley,
Yes.
Member Harris,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Member Stresnick Dean,
Yes.
Chair Lantis.
Yes.
Member Maxwell.
Yes.
And next, I would accept a motion to recommend approval of the application for rezone at 1201 West 15th Street to the City Commission.
I'll make the motion to approve the application for rezone at 1201 West 15th Street.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Would you call the roll?
Chair Lantis.
Yes.
Member Maxwell,
Yes.
Member Harris,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Member Stresnick Dean,
Yes.
Vice Chair Crowley.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 on today's agenda is 1201 West 15th Street, which we just talked about. Conditional use permit application submitted by Clint Arndt on behalf of Rebecca E. Blau Trust and Sunflower Care Homes. Zach, you're up again.
All right. So as stated, this is an application for a conditional use permit at 1201 West 15th Street, the property that we just discussed for a rezoning. The background is the same as the previous case, 4.3 acre tract currently vacant, and the applicant is proposing this conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a nursing home, which requires a CUP within an R3 zoning district. Again, we have the images of the property as it currently is on the left-hand side through GIS with existing property lines and utilities, and the preliminary site plan shown on the right-hand side, giving a general overview of what the property is intending to look like. So as for findings, the applicant is currently in the process of producing final documents for review that meet the standards of the CUP process as outlined within our applications. And the applicant was not able to provide these documents in time for today's hearing and does plan on having them by the time of the August 14th hearing. At that time, staff will provide a full recommendation and findings of those considerations for approval for this project. So with that, staff does recommend that this item be moved to the August 14th, 2024 regular meeting for consideration, and then that recommendation would be forwarded on to the next available City Commission hearing.
Thank you, Zach. Is there any discussion or comment on the staff's recommendation to continue the hearing to August 14th?
And this is to have them provide the rest of that.
Yes, that is correct. And I've spoken with the applicant, and we have discussed that in depth, and we should be able to have those documents by that meeting.
Well, yeah, I would hope so, because that's, I mean, they're the ones that don't benefit by us not getting this accomplished. So with that, then I will, don't think I need a motion or anything. I think I can just continue the public hearing until August 14th, our regular meeting, and is that at 7 p.m. on August 14th?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll continue this public hearing until August 14th at 7 p.m. And with that, we'll move on. Thank you all. Item number 3, Cherry Creek preliminary plat application generally located at 901 South Cherry, submitted by Lindsay Vaught on behalf of Lark LLC. Zach, you're up.
All right, as stated, this is an application for preliminary plat at 901 South Cherry Street to allow for a two-family dwelling housing development as requested by Lindsay Vaught on behalf of Lark LLC. The subject site is a currently undeveloped 5.07 acre or about 220,000 square feet tract located along South Cherry Street between the cross streets of East 9th and East 10th. The parcel is surrounded by existing residential development and zoned parcels. The subject property is zoned R2/HOO, which is two-family housing overlay or housing opportunity overlay district, which does allow for the proposed use of duplexes by right. Property to the immediate north is zoned MHS, manufactured home subdivision. To the south and west is R1, single-family residential, and to the east is additional R2 HOO, as well as a small section of R1 HOO. The applicant is concurrently requesting a PUD to allow for the development of the property as one lot, as reflected on the preliminary plat, following the approval and recording of said plat. As also stated within the PUD application, the proposed facility would consist of 30 dwelling units located within 15 buildings arranged around a central drive that would connect East 9th and East 10th through the middle of the project. The site would be accessible from these roads, and the units placed along the frontage of South Cherry will not have drives accessing that street to preserve a consistent neighborhood frontage. Parking will be provided along the middle drive with ample parking for the proposed use. Per section 22-501, 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit under 2,000 square feet are required, and 60 spots would be required total, and 94 have been proposed. On the left-hand side of this slide, we have a GIS image of the existing lot with utilities shown. The proposed development would encompass the entirety of the new lot with dedicated easements and private access right-of-way. Here's a very small scale version of the entire proposed preliminary plat. A larger format has been provided to the commissioners for review as well. And then we do have some slightly enhanced views in the slides here. So this is the northern portion of the preliminary plat, which includes the phase 1 of the development, as the development is being proposed in phases. This next slide has the southern portion of the preliminary plat, which includes phase 2. And in the findings, the preliminary plat has been undergoing review over the past several weeks with city departments. The provided plat document reflects the changes and updates as requested, and as reflected in the attached response to comment letter, which was received 7/17/2024. Ongoing department reviews did not find additional issues with the preliminary plat as presented. Additionally, the applicant has initiated the process for the CLMORF and the LOMRF and state floodplain fill permits with FEMA that are required to fill in the floodplain. Staff does note that the final plat will undergo additional review for entering minor adjustments or corrections prior to the presentation of the final plat for the project. If substantial adjustments are required, the final plan will be brought back to the Planning Commission for approval. If not, the item will proceed directly to the City Commission for final approval. Staff's recommendation is approval of the proposed preliminary plat, understanding the final plat will substantially conform to the plat as presented and address any minor adjustments or revisions as requested by staff and commissions. The recommendation of the Planning Commission will be forwarded on to the next available City Commission hearing for final determination.
Thank you, Zach. Is there anyone here from the applicant? I see we've got somebody on Zoom and somebody in the audience for the applicant. Would you please come forward, state your name and your address, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay Vogt, 7014 Northwest Kearns Drive, Parkville, Missouri, 64152.
Thank you.
I am just here to answer any questions. Zach did a great job presenting our project, and I believe the property owner is also available if there are questions specific for him.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Does the property owner have anything they wish to say? I see you're muted if you do have.
I do not have anything, but we will answer any of the questions that you guys may have.
And would you identify yourself, please?
Sorry, this is Raymond Love, Lark LLC, 1663 Riley Road, Pomona, Kansas.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
And I don't see any members of the public here to speak to this, so with that, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions, concerns, comments?
I have a comment. I've been connected with education for all of my life, but one of the things that strikes me is that, and this has nothing to do with the plan. This is great. I'm fine with this. But it has to do with how we notify other organizations in our community when a multifamily addition is planned, because of the enrollment impact it would have on the elementary school for sure in that area. A school that I think is running pretty close to capacity as it is. So on the part of the city, I'm speaking really to the staff, of being able to give a heads up if this proceeds through, of the potential at least for a number of additional children that might be headed to that school. Now, this is going to be downstream a little bit, but I'm just raising it because it's something that strikes me immediately when you look at a multifamily dwelling situation. So nothing about the plan itself.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Maxwell. Commissioner Sorrestini?
My only question and concern, first, this is going to be targeted towards Ottawa University students, this particular plan, correct?
In our preliminary discussion, that is correct.
Okay.
Is that still correct as far as you know, Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay.
My question is about the floodplain on the lower border here along 10th Street, and the fact that it basically runs right through the entrance. And I'm curious if any accommodation needs to be made for people to get in and out. I know there's a second entrance on the 9th Street side, but that is a lot of people to get in and out, or for an emergency vehicle to get in and out in the event that water does go over the 10th Street entrance.
Sure, and that's been a part of the discussion. I will defer to Lindsay on that one. She is an engineer and
Okay.
a little bit more involved with that
Thanks.
portion of it.
Yeah, good question. So we are proposing that line, the STM is a storm line. The city has asked us to enclose the storm sewers through there, and then that will run under the access. There will also be fill brought in, and that's part of the process we're going through with FEMA. So we'll raise the elevation there, so it will not be underwater, at least to where it outlets on the east side of that access drive.
And will that be, the underground, the aqueduct, whatever you want to call it, will that be sized to a 100-year flood, or will that be sized to a 500-year flood, or somewhere in between?
Typically, it's a 100-year flood.
Okay, because we've all seen many times water up on Cherry Street, a third of the way up the block. So, I mean, a 100-year event, yes, but what we're having now, we've had in the last, 10 or 15 years, are not 100-year events. They're much greater than that. And so, I think we all have questions on, or I shouldn't speak for all. I have questions. I know Commissioner Dean does. My question would be more or less for the fire marshal. Is the fire marshal comfortable that if water gets over that road and they can't access the southern half of that road, are they comfortable coming in from the north half all the way to the south half with the fire apparatus?
The fire department has been a part of all of these reviews, and they have not had any issues with the preliminary plat or the preliminary PUD plan as presented. So they have been a part of all of these discussions, and that has not been brought up as a specific issue.
And I would say, I'm not sure that we can come up with another arbitrary line of water.
Yeah.
Right.
They're based on what the floodplain and FEMA's telling them. We all know that the water's been way higher than this, but we can't, I'm not sure we can just come up with an arbitrary line.
No, I wasn't even suggesting
No, I know,
that, Commissioner
I know.
Coffey. Yeah, I just, my thing
I
is,
agree with what you're saying.
yeah, if they put a 100-year tube in, then that's actually gonna back water up even
Because it's gonna be
more,
worse
because it
than
can
that.
only, yeah. And so that was my biggest concern.
So you're requesting us to size it for the 10-year flood?
I'm just saying that we have concerns about that, so I don't
Okay.
know that, Bill and Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Crowley and Commissioner Harris would speak more to that because they're contractors. They could speak more to that than I could, but we all have concerns that that's gonna
Well, the whole-
inhibit the water from getting off of the park in a larger flood than a 100-year flood. Am I making sense on that?
And what impact bringing fill in could do to where that water goes and how it might impact other people as well. But I'm not the expert on that. That would be a conversation with FEMA about how that's impacted. I don't know.
Yeah, we will have to go through the whole process with FEMA to get the floodplain maps revised based on, because our proposed elevation, I believe, is 903. It's currently at, I think it's at 900. The existing elevations are the lighter gray lines, and then the proposed elevations are the dark lines. So we are raising it through there. The city has also asked us to make sure we're not putting any additional stormwater onto Cherry. So that is something that we are aware of.
It's gonna be kind of up to their engineers on that, because it's all gonna be dictated off the size of that storm pipe right there.
Right.
And that inlet right here on Cherry Street.
Yeah.
That, everything we're discussing is gonna be dictated off of that size of that storm line and that inlet.
Right, and I think that's what we're all concerned with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of,
Okay.
this lady's an engineer, so.
And I with the process that I've been involved with a couple other FEMA applicants that have had to deal with floodplain, I'm just concerned about the size of the tube is what
Yeah,
I'm
I
concerned
understand.
about.
Yeah, we will work with city staff to make sure that it's sized appropriately.
Can you repeat yourself again? You're trying to get what changed? The
The
flood line?
The floodplain, yeah. So when we're gonna bring fill into, so the dark gray shaded area is the 100-year floodplain.
Uh-huh.
So when we're bringing fill in to raise that, that will change the floodplain and the flood maps that FEMA has created for this area. So then we will submit a letter requesting they use the new elevations.
Which is gonna be what?
It's 903 is what I see on the drive.
So your finished floor elevations are 879.
That is the square foot. That's under
Okay.
under the unit
Square
square footage,
foot,
and then
gotcha.
above the unit is the
Okay.
finished floor is 903.5, and then the drive is 903,
Gotcha.
and then closer down to the outlet, it's at 900 and going down. So we will submit all of this. We'll resurvey it and submit it through FEMA and get that all approved through them. That'll be a separate process.
Okay.
But we will also work with the city to make sure that the storm drainage along Cherry and those pipes are sized adequately.
And I think staff's got our message.
Oh, yeah.
So, all
Which
right.
that's been one of the larger components, the floodplain aspect on that southern portion right there.
Okay.
So that's been a big part of the discussion as we've been moving through this.
Now, that aside, I'm excited to see this. So I
Yeah.
think this is a great use of that piece of ground, and it's certainly a step in the right direction of smaller square footage properties for rentals in Ottawa, Kansas. So
I do have another question on the request. A little bit confused that the request is saying they're allowing for 2-family dwellings. If we already know this is for OU students, is this gonna be more like the project we just approved in the 800 block of Main Street? Because it's not really families, they're unrelated?
No, I mean, these are, what was the bedroom count on these? I apologize.
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms. So they are technically under that count. And then the request, again, this is 2-family. It's oriented towards OU students. I don't believe it's as part of a larger scheme by the university to provide some form of student housing. So it's oriented towards students, but I do believe there are.
If it doesn't fill up, I'll fill it with typical numbers.
That'd be my understanding. Again, so it's labeled as a 2-family because it's a standard duplex project.
Which I understand that, but what I'm saying is, we just had a developer have to jump through a bunch of hoops.
That's
to
for
get
that was
approved.
for a very separate type of situation
That
because
was a 5-bedroom.
it was a 5-bed. There was a house manager component. It was a separate type of situation.
which
than
put
what
into
this
the group
is.
home classification, right?
I'm
I
sorry.
guess
what?
my question is, what's the number that requires?
It was over the 4, so there was 5 unrelated.
Okay, so it's 5 or
residents.
more.
It was the 5 with the house manager and then
Yeah.
everything else per the state statute.
Is that
Yeah.
okay? Anything else?
On the storm issues, you're talking about dealing with FEMA, you're gonna have to have Corps of Engineers involved in that too, aren't you?
I think it's just through FEMA.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, what's the commission's pleasure? And again, this is just the start of the process. There's a lot more goes to it before the final plat either comes to us or goes straight to the city commission.
You need a motion to approve the
Need a
preliminary
motion,
plat?
need a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
I'll make the motion to approve the preliminary plat.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Member Harris,
Yes.
Chair Lantis,
Yes.
Member Maxwell,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Vice Chair Crowley,
Yes.
Member Stresnick Dean.
Yes.
Okay, so item number 4 is the preliminary plan unit development, residential. I always like to add that. Application generally located at 901 South Cherry Street, submitted by Lindsay Vaught on behalf of Lark LLC. Zach.
All right. As stated in the previous case, we have the entire background of the project. It's currently an undeveloped 5.07 acre tract located along South Cherry Street. And this PUD would allow for the development of the property as one lot, which would follow the approval and recording of an approved plat. The proposed duplexes are not intended to be sold individually, and the PUD overlay would eliminate the need for individual lots and frontages that would otherwise be required. The PUD would also allow for more flexibility in the bulk and form regulations that would benefit the proposed development as shown in the site plan. So as stated in the previous case, the proposed facility would consist of 30 dwelling units located within 15 buildings arranged around a central drive connecting East 9th and East 10th Streets. It would be accessible from these roads, and the units placed along South Cherry would not have drives accessing that street to preserve a consistent neighborhood frontage. Parking would be provided along the middle drive, and ample parking has been provided for the plan. And the proposed project would be completed within 2 phases, the first consisting of units 1 through 12 at the north end of the property, where the proposed drive intersects with East 9th Street. Again, we have the image of the property as it currently is, with zoning overlays and existing utilities and everything else shown. Another image of the preliminary planned unit development plan. A close-up on the north side, which again is phase 1 of the project, and the south end, which is phase 2. And then this PUD also includes the landscaping plan, which has been provided in a large format for the commissioners for review as well. And then that is broken up into north and south sections as well. And for findings, the preliminary plan, similar to the preliminary plat, has been going under review for the past several weeks with city departments. The provided site plan for the PUD reflects changes and updates as requested. As noted, the project will be completed in 2 phases, with the northern sections of units 1 through 12 to be completed first. This phasing is reflected in the constructed plan with the parking, the constructed proposal on the site plan with parking with van accessible spaces moved to the northern side of the plan to be completed within the first phase. In the initial response to comments, it was stated by the applicant that the utilities were to be constructed in phases as well. The city has requested that utilities for the entire site be completed within phase 1. This scheduling has been revised by the applicant and is revised on the attached plan. Other department reviews did not find additional issues with the preliminary plan as presented. Staff does note that the final plan will undergo additional review for any minor adjustments or corrections prior to the presentation of the final plan for the PUD. If substantial adjustments are required, the final plan will be brought back to the Planning Commission for approval. If not, the item will proceed directly to the City Commission for final approval. So staff does recommend approval of the proposed preliminary plan, understanding the final plan will substantially conform to the plan as presented and address any minor adjustments or revisions as requested by staff and commissions. It is recommended the Planning Commission deliberate approval of the planned unit development for the following courses of action: approval or moving it to the next available Planning Commission meeting. And then the recommendation of the Planning Commission will be forwarded on to the next available City Commission meeting for final determination.
Okay, thank you.
Missed a blurb in there.
Questions, concerns? Hearing nothing, let's see, we did not open a public hearing because there was no. Did we open a public hearing on this? We did not, because this is not a public hearing, right? Is this a public hearing?
This is a public hearing.
There's no public here.
That's right, that's, yeah. We had the developer, yeah, okay, so. Did I close the public hearing?
You did not.
I did not? You should have thrown something at me, so I'm gonna close the public hearing.
I thought you did.
Yeah, I think you did.
I thought I did, but
Yeah, you did.
I'm not sure. I'm about as foggy as the atmosphere today, so. Anyway, all right, so I would entertain a motion to forward this on to the city commission. Whoop, hold on.
Make a motion to modify our set,
What?
correct?
Oh, yes, first, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I made a motion to accept funds.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Would you call the roll?
Vice Chair Crowley,
Yes.
Member King,
Yes.
Member Harris.
Yes.
Chair Lantis.
Yes.
Member Maxwell,
Yes.
Member Straznik Dean.
Yes.
Okay, I'd accept a motion to recommend approval or denial of the preliminary plan unit development application located at 901 South Cherry to the city commission.
I'll make a motion to move it to the city commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. Would you call the roll?
Member Harris,
Yes.
Chair Lantis.
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Member Maxwell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Crowley,
Yes.
Member Straznik Dean.
Yes.
All right, thank you all. Is there any thank you. Is there any old business to come before the planning commission?
I don't believe so. On my end.
All right. Staff comments.
Do have a comment. We do have our final kind of standard info session for the comp plan. That's going to be on August 7th from 6 to 8. Currently working with Commissioner Straznik Dean on a location at the Archives and Research Center. So that is the tentative location at the moment. But just a reminder to let people know about that and encourage them to attend.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'd thank you each for your dedicated service. Always glad to have a full house.
Almost.
Every appointed member's here. So yeah, that does lead into, we're still looking for that a second extraterritorial member, but we're so glad to have Member Maxwell having agreed to serve. So thank you for your service.
We certainly thank him. Commissioner comments.
Yeah, speaking of thanking us, what's the situation with lunches? Because we've always been provided lunch, and I guess that's changing.
So that was at my recommendation. So the ire should all come to me. There were a couple considerations there, and they really just had to do with having meeting decorum. We have this because we've moved from a study session format to a regular meeting format. We're in a regular meeting. We're in the city commission chambers, and it is a videoed meeting. And so the thought was that that doesn't lend itself to a meal. But if the direction of the commission is that there will be lunch served, staff isn't trying to do anything radical here. We just wanted to make sure that we had the best meeting decorum possible.
I make a motion to keep serving lunches. Is there a second?
Well, I honestly, I think we're a unique meeting in the fact that we meet during the lunch hour, and there are people who get away from their jobs to come to this meeting and serve the public and then go right back to their job, so they don't have time for lunch. I'd like to say I was one of those, and I could blame my mess up here a little bit ago on low blood sugar, but I can go before or after, but there are people who can't. I think we need to have, and maybe we don't have such a wide selection, maybe we just have cold cut sandwiches every night. I mean, I don't know, but we need to have, if we're gonna meet during the noon hour, I think we need to provide for those volunteers who take their lunch hour to come and be at this meeting.
It is a convenience thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Message
We'll be careful
received.
around the city commission's electronic gear. We will be. So, any other discussion on that?
On that note.
Anything else that
When I was on this crew before, we started the lunch thing then, and And it really was a benefit because most of the people at that time were working.
Yeah.
And came, did their thing and went back to work.
Yeah.
So it was really a benefit in that sense. But I would say that somebody raised it, Cal raised it, I guess. A little thought given into simplicity of the food might allay some concerns about the decorum question. Probably holding slices of pizza is probably not very photogenic, but there could be other things that are less obtrusive if we just need to be smart about it.
Yeah, and I do appreciate why you decided, or why you thought we
Yes,
shouldn't have them.
sure.
But when you look at it from the other side of the bench, why we are, after all, asking for people to volunteer their time. Anything else from any of the other commissioners on any other item today?
Happy to see movement happening at that development over by Price Chopper.
Hidden Lakes, I think
Hidden
that
Lakes?
is.
Yeah, it's nice to see something happening.
And are we still working on the development agreement on Wilson and Davis? Or is that, I haven't seen any survey flags, I haven't seen any activity out there.
There are some things on the developer side that are not within the purview of city staff.
Okay, okay,
And I would say, Zach, awesome job with your presentations.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
you, appreciate that.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get it out.
We are so, I mean, seriously, after just the struggles we've had, seeing professional presentations.
Yeah, you did a great job.
It's just, it's, the community can understand what we're doing. We can understand what we're doing. And so, yeah, so thank you.
I appreciate it.
Anything else? If not, announcements. Next regularly scheduled, the city commission meeting or planning commission meeting is 7 p.m. August the 14th at City Hall. And the next daytime regular planning commission meeting, which we're all looking forward to because of the lunch we're gonna have, is August the 29th, 2024 at noon at City Hall. And if there are no more